What's up, guys? It's Aussie Poker, aka Grandmaster Max Illingworth here, and this video, I'm going to be doing some training in GTOWizard, which I just got a subscription for, and we're going to be practicing some post-flop spots. I tried to fiddle around with the settings a bit, and eventually I figured out, how to set it so that I wouldn't just be getting like all-in situations all the time. So this one, with 100 big blinds post-flop play, I think it's going to be interesting to see how my play compares to what the solver does, and obviously how to try to understand how the solver plays in different spots. Like, I'm probably going to practice between 5 or 10 or so for the video. It depends, how deeply I decide to look into, what the solver is doing with different hands. And of course, with this one, you can also play along, and try to play it better than me in this spot. So this one, so just to see, like, so you can see what the action was, basically the undergun raised here, and we called in response. One thing is, when you're playing tournaments, you are going to get a lot of multi-way spots, but especially like the weaker tournaments. But obviously, the solvers haven't got to level of being able to solve for the multi-way spots because they're a lot more complicated. So it's going to be heads up sort of practice, like heads up on the post flop, that is. So in any case, this one, we've got the pocket sevens, but I think that we're not really going to have a leading range in general, is all my feeling on this board. Just because, like, I think we're probably more likely to lead maybe if we have a straight on the board, like if it was a 9 instead of a 10. I think we just check in general, is sort of my gut feeling. And also, the nice thing is it does give you feedback as well on these situations. This is kind of an interesting one because, sometimes you are meant to turn your pairs into bluffs here. But when the guy checks, I think, like, the king is just a lot better for his range than for ours. So I think that once again, I'm kind of leaning towards a check here. So let's check it. He checks, and then he bets, and we basically just have a bluff catcher. The thing is, a lot of hands kind of got through, like Ace Jack got through here, and the flush draws got through. That said, we do have a blocker to the flush draw with the 7. So I'm sort of, my first instinct was to actually call until just play it as a bluff catcher, because I think that he might have enough bluffs that we may be able to do it, but it's hard to say. Like, I think if it was, like, if it sort of had bet the turn and then the river, I think it's an easy fold. But when he just bets, because I mean, he could be double checking with a 10. I mean, that is possible. Like, it really comes down to, like, what the amount of bluffs he's doing this with versus the amount of value hands in a way. And I feel like it's very close between a call and a fold, actually. But I think because we have the flush blocker, I'm going to call here, and we'll find out, whether it was what they actually had. So it turns out he was actually bluffing with ace-4, which is, I feel like, it's sort of a bluff that, my first thought was that humans wouldn't find that sort of bluff, but actually, when you sort of check twice, people just assume you have absolutely nothing in tournaments. So I think in a live game, someone might have a shot with ace-high thinking, okay, the guy has nothing, my ace-high is good, and they'll think they're actually value betting. If they think you're not protecting your checking range as such. So it's kind of an interesting one. I'm curious to see whether you're actually able to, like, review the hand as such, like whether you can see how the different hands play in different situations. Because earlier I saw someone, like in a study session I was in poker coaching, I actually saw someone do that really well, but like they were just so familiar with the software, I didn't see how like they did it. I guess it's probably like the way it would be like to study the spot and sort of look at it from that way. I'm not going to do it for this session actually, because actually it says here like that the turn and river we played it correctly, that the flop was if I click flop, see, I'm learning here as well. So okay, it turns out that actually we do bet quite a bit of the time with the 7s, and I guess that makes sense with turning the 7s into bluffs, but I guess it's also the idea that this guy's going to have like a lot of ace-x in his range, and things like ace-6 and ace-5 offsuit are just going to fold pre-flop. And if he does have ace-6, ace-5 suited, and he doesn't have the flush draw. So I think that's, I'm guessing, the logic why we would bet that, maybe marginally more than checking. But okay, it's pretty similar EV. And if we just go back, I'm saying to figure out how you actually do this, we can see that the check was correct, but that you do bet some of the time as well. You can see, that the solvers, are going to have these kind of, mixed strategies in a way. Is it showing the details for the under the gun player, what they should do as well. That's interesting. And this one, it says that we should bet, it says, that it should bet some of the time and check some of the time, which, yeah, kind of makes sense to me, but checking a bit more. Besides, turn into a bluff, and yeah, we end up making the correct call. So that's cool. Like, I'm keeping it a little bit shorter because I think if I go into the like details, like we play this hand this way and that way, even though I feel like I'm at a level where I kind of like am comfortable and sort of understand it a little bit, I realized that, when I was sort of starting out in poker, like my eyes just glaze over when I saw like these million hands trying to visualize at once. So I'm going to try and keep it a bit more simple for you guys here, make it a bit easier to follow and get the, faster feedback. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, yeah, do make sure to like it and consider subscribing. I do this just purely as a journal for my own improvement. Like, if I don't really care about the view subscribers, but I think at some point, like, my family will care about it. So, anyway, looking at this one here, yeah, we've got so basically, yeah, it was a raise and a call. I guess check, like, just to make sure it's not like a free bet pot or something like this, or 4-bet pot, because obviously that influences the ranges quite a lot. So, yeah, we've got top pair, top kicker. I mean, if we had a weaker top pair, I think solver might want us to check some of the time. But, like, the cutoff is going to have a pretty wide defending range due to, like, being in position. Like, it's going to have all kinds of, suited connectors. We do have the nut flush blocker. So I actually think this is a spot that we would bet. The question mine is, do we bet small or do we bet big here? I don't think we have a massive range advantage. I do think we have a small range and nut advantage. Because, like, they're not going to have queens and jacks in their range. Like, if it was a tournament, I would probably just bet 4.7. That's probably what I would do in reality. I have a feeling the solver might want me to do 2.35. Then I'm going to play it as if it was a tournament. I'm going to be honest with it and do it based on the way I would play it normally rather than, like, what I think is the right answer. So we're going to make it 4.7. They end up calling, which makes things kind of interesting. If, like, when you're playing, like, in tournaments, like, people normally are going to check raise if they have like 2 pair or better. It's like when they call, they're going to be limited to 1 pair. But the solver, yeah, is a little bit different. Like, they might call, with some, like, say if they had like, I don't really have, they don't have pocket queens in their range, but let's say if they did have pocket queens, like, they might be more likely to call rather than raise, because if they raise them, a lot of the calls are going to come from like a top pair, which they're heavily blocking with the queens. Whereas if they had like pocket fours, like, they could maybe raise it a bit more easily on based on what might get that call from that queen or that jack that they're not blocking. The 6, I think, is a little bit of a brick here. Like, yeah, you could check for pot control, but you also could be just value owning yourself potentially. I think when we have the nut flush, I actually think it makes sense to keep firing. Just the question is what size we would go for. Because we have like some showdown value, I feel like an overbet might be a little bit excessive at this point. But I do think we should keep betting for value. Like, I think a second street here, if we had like an ace, so it was like let's say if it was an ace of, clubs, for example, then yeah, maybe I would lean more towards checking. But I think with the spade draw, I think we're able to represent if the spade comes. I think we just keep firing. That's my gut feeling. He decides to call. So that makes things very interesting when he calls 2 streets. Because, yeah, he's got position. He's called twice. And, the river is a little bit of a brick. I mean, to be fair, like, yeah, if he has 5-7, but I think that 5-7, well, okay, maybe it would have raised actually earlier. So, but yeah, the only straight draws are 5-7 and 5-2. 5-2 doesn't really get there, and 5-7, I think, yeah, wouldn't just call. I feel like it would have raised the flop or the turn. If that assessment's correct, then we actually, I think, can value bet again here. And I'm thinking, yeah, again, going a bit over half pot. Just basically just trying to extract as much value as possible is kind of my thinking. There is every times you'll be value owning yourself, like, if he has, well, we block queen jack, but say if he has, I'm trying to think actually what kind of 2 pairs he has. It's actually not that obvious, like maybe 6-4 suited, but I mean 6-4 suited probably folds to an under the gun raise. So I'm just struggling to see like what sort of better hands he has realistically speaking. Like, unless he has, pocket fours, yeah, he could have that. He could be slow playing a pocket 6. I mean, yeah, it's definitely possible, but I feel like it's such a small percentage hands because like when you have a 4 here, that means he only has 3 combinations of pocket 4s in his range. So I think that means that we can actually value bet here in general. And yeah, there's a risk maybe we're getting called by worse, but we'll see how we played it. Turns out king queen, and yeah, it's kind of an interesting one, and like it's one where I didn't really try to play perfectly, but just tried to play the way that I would normally speaking. Because like the GTO is, yeah, saying that I played it inaccurately because, yeah, maybe, like a computer might, let's say, like raise in this spot and, put me in a difficult spot or some of the time. Maybe that's the logic, I don't know. But I think that, yeah, if playing it this way, like when you have top pair, top kicker, when you get a good hand, just like betting, as free streets, I think is just going to get you so much value against human opponents, and because I got a lot more value actually against the computer opponent, just going for it rather than if I had played like the official GTO way. As you probably figured, I'm kind of with people like who doesn't like to just get hung up like the solver is always right. I like to think about myself and think, well, okay, if I'm playing against a human, like, is this actually going to get me the most money, or is this going to get me a spot where maybe I'm playing correctly, but maybe not punishing the opponent's mistakes as much as possible. I'm going to skip here. Probably there is some way I can fast forward it, but I'm just going to get to this. So you can see, that we should check according to solver, or we should bet small. And like I said, I had a feeling that we probably should bet small, but I decided just to play it the way I would if it was against a human player. I guess with betting small, you're kind of saying that, you can maybe try to invite a check raise and get more value. Maybe that's the logic, but anyway, so that's one where the guy does call as you would expect. It's kind of interesting actually that when we use this sizing, that actually it's saying that the king queen should actually fold some of the time. It's probably because like we're maybe meant to use the bigger sizing maybe with the two parent sets more. Maybe that's the logic, but kind of an interesting one. And this one, it's one where we actually should bet even bigger. This is kind of an intriguing one where I was actually on the right track with betting more, but actually, it turns out that we should actually, bet, should overbet like nearly half the time. That itself is quite interesting because actually I would get a lot more value, I think, with that. Because my previous understanding of overbets, so you're meant to do overbet in a very polarized way. Like either you have, the nuts are very close to it, like, queens, jacks, queen, jack, this kind of hand, or like pocket fours, pocket sixes overbet. And also with a bunch of bluffs, like say if you had, I don't know, ace, king suited. Okay, that's not even that much of a bluff. You still have like, 30% equity or so there, even if they have like a pairs here. Then, these hands like, can potentially make the nuts like 5-7 and, the suited flush draws, this kind of thing. So kind of interesting actually, that I had thought, well, I'll do it a bit less, but actually the solver just wants to go wild at this point. It's kind of intriguing. So we probably could have got more value from this, in fact. And then, when we go here, now when the way player, does want to bet, and it says a bit smaller, like probably the logic is that when we bet this size, we're probably only going to get called by like weaker queens, which may not be that huge a part of their range, perhaps. But I'm happy with the way I played it, like from a exploitative point of view. But I'm even learning like here how we can actually be more exploitative against the humans, even by just betting, like over betting with top pair, top kicker. That's a very interesting idea, like that when there's no flush or straight draws on the board, the top pair, top kicker can be an overbet hand. Just like getting a very valuable lesson. So moving on to another one where we get pocket kings, and we are in the big blind. So, okay, so let's look at the action. I'm kind of curious. So, the button raised, we free bet, and the button called. So, okay, this is a free bet pot. And at this point, so the thing is that we free bet, so we do have the range advantage, and nut advantage, but we are out of position. I don't think he would bet with the queen, so there is a part of me that actually wants to bet here and just lead out. Kind of an interesting question. Like, I'm thinking, like, how can we set this up so that we can get potentially 3 streets of value? Like, so we have a good size to go all in on the river. And my thinking is if we made it 12, like, if we bet, like, half pot on both of them, then that would set it up so that, you'd be able to do, like, a river shove of, 75% pot or so. I mean, sort of like, kind of like I'm trying to play a little bit automatically, where it's kind of revert to, like, betting half pot as kind of default when we have the range advantage and a nut advantage. So I'm going to go with half pot here. I mean, maybe I should check it, objectively speaking, just was out of position. But I'm going to c-bet. It just feels like the right thing to do here. He does call. The ace is kind of an interesting one here. And also it's like a diamond. We're not really blocking the diamond draws. I do think, though, that our hand does become more of a bluff catch when the ace comes, because I think they will be defending with a fair bit of like suited aces and some like decent ace-x. So I think this one we should actually check. And it checks back. The second ace comes, which does reduce the chance that they have an ace in this spot. So I am tempted to actually go and bet another street for value. Because I feel like if they have an ace, like a lot of the time they would just bet it in that spot when we check. The only question is what sizing. Like, I don't think a big sizing makes much sense. I think if we bet thin for value, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. So maybe 17.5 and hope we don't get raised. He ends up going all in, so that kind of makes things a little bit tricky here. Because, he could be calling a free bet with ace-queen. So then maybe this is why we shouldn't bet this small amount, because it leaves very vulnerable to being shoved on. If it was a human opponent, I'm pretty sure I would just fold the kings at this point, but at the same time, I feel like, he's going to have quite a few bluffs in his range, and the reason I say that is because the diamond draw has missed, the gut shot draw has missed. Okay, we are blocking it with the kings to some extent, like we're not blocking Jack 10, which I think would be a very logical hand to bluff with in this stage, either suited or offsuit. So I'm actually thinking this one's going to be a call. Of course, we could just be burning like money on fire, but I think that my gut feeling is this is actually going to be a call, and we're going to use it as a bluff catcher. Okay, it turns out he has king 10, so we actually were kind of right that he's going to have a lot of bluffs, but it's kind of funny because it says it's the wrong move in this spot. I'm guessing we should just fold. Let's look at it back, because it looks like it says I played the flop and the turn all right here, that, betting here is actually... It's obvious he actually wants to get kind of overbet, not overbet, but like bet close to the pot. In this case, like about half the time. It's kind of an interesting point, but I think I had the general right idea, that we should bet, for value at this point. But we can actually go bigger with the overpair. That's kind of interesting. From their point of view, they should sometimes call, sometimes fold. I mean, they do have the backdoor draw, which I think, does lean it towards being like a call. Because I think if you're folding here, I think you're just folding everything. Like if you're going to fold king 10 like suited to a bet like on this board, then it means you probably should have folded like pre-flop, honestly, to a free bet. Of course, it means you're kind of exploitable, but like that's sort of the human way I would think about it. That if you're not going to be ready to call a bet with, some more like, let's say, drawing kind of hands, then you probably should just fold pre-flop. This one, it says, we end up, what I end up doing, I end up checking at this point, which it's saying, that we should actually continue firing on the ace. I guess it's because it hits our free bet range a lot better than their range, that we have like ace queen more than they do and this sort of thing. I mean, we could also be doing like ace free suited as a bluff, so I guess that kind of makes sense, like free betting it as a semi bluff. So kind of interesting that we should bet 24.5 and just keep firing, but firing like half pot as such. Okay, cool. So they end up checking it back. I guess also maybe another logic is that when you do check, you're sort of giving him a easy way to get the flush draw. Like he gets a free shot at the flush draw and at the other thing. For my reasoning for checking, I was sort of thinking of doing it as a check call, actually, because I thought that a hand like this with combo draw, might actually bet quite big some of the time, which, okay, it turns out actually do bet half pot. So I think like if we let them build the pot, that's kind of what I was thinking, but he'd just check and, take his free equity, which, does end up missing. So, and it turns out at this point, actually, this is very intriguing, actually, to me, that we should either check or we should shove at this point. Because to me, thinking from a human point of view, my thought process would be, if we shove with kings, like when we're getting called by an ace or better, would be like the human way I would think about it. But maybe the idea is like that actually, like let's say if he has a queen in his hand, or if he has like a, maybe like he's meant to like call with some of the time as a bluff catcher or something. Maybe that's the logic. And we just kind of just rep the ace. So very, very interesting. I mean, with the bet, I think, the reason we don't bet that size is that we leaves us very vulnerable to be shoved on with all kinds of bluffs at that point. And then you kind of have to be right as such about, what they have. But kind of one that, could have played it better, admittedly. Like betting fin for value maybe was not the play. It's not interesting, that he should, basically call a decent chunk of the time. It's sort of actually kind of curious in this one. Because, you're basically, you have a pure bluff catcher, but maybe the logic is that you're meant to bet 7.5 with a lot of bluffs. So maybe that's the idea behind it. But to me, it's not natural. Like, to me, a fold would be kind of the obvious choice. Like, if I didn't know what the solve was, I would think it's either fold or shove at this point. With a shove, like, be an interesting choice. But in the end, it's one where, I see, it's saying maybe the mistake I made was, on the river, first one, not the second, that this one is a call. Because, like, wow, do you really fold kings? But, okay. This one, we didn't play it very well according to the solver. But it's sort of a case where, kind of funny how it works. Like, sometimes, like, I've noticed, like, you play the hand not the best way according to computer, but playing it the human way, you end up getting like a lot more money against against most opponents. Weird how it works sometimes. But that one, kind of an interesting example of when you check and that it's sort of when Simon Solveus wants to bet a lot bigger than what a human would naturally think. Anyway, how many spots we done? We done 2 spots. I already lost count because I'm so focused on the hand. But okay, this one we ended up. Is this a limp pot? Okay, we called, they raised, and then we called. So, given that they, they raised their range, is going to be better on paper, like, in a vacuum. But we do have king 9, so I think that this is one that we just check. I'm actually tempted to check raise if he were to bet there, just because we have the king flush blocker, but yeah, the free comes in. The free, if we had been the one that led out, this would be very good for the big blinds range, but because they led out, I feel like it's a little bit of a brick. So I'm just going to check it. I'm not going to turn his hand into a bluff. Actually, I'm sort of wondering like what the logical bluffs would be at this point. Because it's, yeah, now it's like 4 to a straight, and it's a board that, you know, it's very much underbluffed in human games, but of course we're playing against Solver. I'm actually very tempted to turn this hand into a bluff. On that hand, we do have some showdown value with the king high, but I think that when he raises to our limp, I think that the worst hands that get there are going to be ace X's, so if we do bluff, the question is what hands are we trying to get to fold here? I mean, I'm guessing we're trying to get like ace 2, ace 3, ace 5, ace 6. We're probably trying to get these kind of hands to fold. I mean, yeah, maybe he would raise like with some king 6 suited as a bluff, but we're kind of blocking that. So, I mean, like raising pre-flop with that. I don't think we can really get a queen to fold to any size is kind of my feeling. The thing is, though, how many 4s are we going to have in our range? Like, would we limp with ace 4? No, we'd probably raise it. I mean, if it's offsuit, maybe we would call it, but yeah, I'm thinking that if we do bet 6, like, just because it's such a coordinated board, I think that we would get a lot of folds, like from ace 2, ace 3, but maybe ace 5 and ace 6 might call us. If we bet 12, we probably can get the ace 5 and the ace 6 to fold. Hard to say. I am leaning towards going 12. That's just from seeing like them do the overbets. Now, like, I want to try and overbet myself. So yeah, screw it. Let's just make it 12. In an actual game, I probably would do 6, but yeah, end up making a good call with ace 8. So that's actually quite impressive. Yeah, that it made the call with ace 8 there. But I guess it's because, yeah, you're sort of blocking ace 4 is kind of the logic why you would call the bluff catcher. But very like, I think in a human game, like, I mean, virtually no one would call the overbet with ace 8, like, except the very, very good players who worked a lot with solvers is kind of my feeling. But it's an interesting one, actually, that, you know, on the flop, we played it correctly. Okay, and to be fair, like, for this one, I'm also just looking at this, yeah, seeing that you do bet ace high some of the time. Like, I mean, from an exploitative point of view, I think against a human, you would just bet the ace high. Of course, it does leave you vulnerable to being check raised, and actually, if he had done that, I do think I would have check raised it probably to 9 or 10 big blinds in response. So maybe that's the reason behind checking it a fair bit at a time. But yeah, this one, yeah, I think fairly standard check. They check it back, makes sense. Yeah, mixing various sizes on occasion, but mostly checking. And yeah, this one, yeah, we're supposed to check. I mean, I'm guessing like, yeah, I mean, we are really targeting the ace 8 like he has here. But yeah, I mean, it's one where, the EV, yeah, it is quite a bit lower from a solver point of view that, you should just check by far. I do think from a human point of view, you can sort of make a argument for this on the basis that humans are going to overfold. Like I said, I think that in a human game, they would actually fold as high as ace 6 in that spot. But yeah, interesting hand. And yeah, it turns out that he should fold most of the time, but does end up finding the hero call. And, it is what it is. So anyway, let's play another hand as well. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, do make sure to like and subscribe. I already forgot if I said before, because it's like the third take I'm doing, but yeah, just in case I forgot. So yeah, this one we have ace jack suited. Let's look at what the action was pre-flop. We raised, the button free bet us, and we just called. Yeah, I mean, calling ace jack, that's fair enough. Like if you 4-bet, you're getting called by better hands. Like ace 5 suited would be a much better 4-bet bluff. Anyway, we've got top pair with a decent kicker, but we are out of position, and they did free bet us. So I think we just check range here, honestly. Like, I think we'd only bet probably if there was, some straight on the board. It was my feeling. Now this guy bets, I mean, I think it's a little bit too crazy to raise here. I think we just called, is sort of my gut feeling. It is a small raise size he used. Like, he is buying himself a cheap price. Like, if he has a flush draw, like, I don't know, if he has, let's say he's playing, like, king 8 suited as a bluff. Yeah, like, that's how one where he just bought himself a very cheap flush, but, like, a very cheap draw to the flush. But yeah, this board, like, is one that I feel like the button is probably going to bet quite big if we just check here in a lot of cases because of the 2 flush draws. Now, yeah, they could check back and take a free card, which would be not ideal for us, but I do feel like it's a spot that it actually makes sense to try to incite the bluff, like, and play ace jack kind of as like a bluff catcher. That's what my gut feeling. Now, we are blocking some of the straight draw bluffs in that case, but I think that I'm leaning towards a check. I think against a human opponent. Actually, against human opponent, I would bet this some of the time, like trying to get value from a queen, but I think that in this case, a check is all right. They check and the flush draw comes, and this, yeah, puts us in a bit of a tricky spot, actually. Because, yeah, we do have a suited ace, but it's the wrong suit. I guess one way to look is, would we play a flush draw, this like a backdoor flush draw? Like, say if we have the ace-6 of hearts, yeah, like we have ace-jack of hearts. Well, yeah, I mean, we would probably check because we just have the back door. And if they bet, we wouldn't really check raise to their small bet, because, you know, we have showdown value, quite a bit of it with the ace. And on the turn, like, we have the flush draw, like, I mean, we probably would check to check raise it. I'm actually thinking of turning this hand into, like, a bluff with value. I'm not sure if it's, like, the solving do, because maybe you should just check it down and try to realize your equity, but I do kind of like the idea of going for the overbet bluff once again in this spot. I mean, even an all-in would actually be kind of an interesting one to do here, because let's say if he calls with, like, a bluff catcher, like a queen, for example, thinking that we're going to be bluffing a lot on this board, well, then we beat a queen. So I think that's a very interesting idea, actually, to just shove in this one. Like, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I do. I actually feel like it's probably going to go between check and shove. Because we bet 41.5 and we get shoved, and we kind of have to fold. So, yeah, this is a very interesting spot. I mean, maybe I'm just doing this because I'm thinking of this, what the solve would do, rather than what I do it in reality. But I do like the idea of going for the shove here. You know what, let's just do it. You know, if it's a mistake, we learn from it at least. So we shove, and he folds, and what did he fold? He folded Jack-8. So it turns out, yeah, that this was actually a blunder, but, you know, it's sort of like the Adamo principle, you know, of, like, that they're going to overfold. Okay, it turns out he actually had nothing here, so I'm going to review the spot. So it turns out I actually did play the flop correctly, and I did play the turn correctly, like going for the call and, yeah, going for the check. So it turns out that was actually correct. And then in this one, yeah, I should just check it most of the time. And yeah, if I'm going to bet, I should go for the sort of value of, like, yeah, a bit over half pot. Which, to be fair, is probably what I'd normally do actually in a tournament. I'd probably normally would bet, yeah, the 17 size, just try to get value from a weaker ace or a queen. This one, yeah, we did lose a bunch of EVs, so... But yeah, so I think, like, it's better to make that mistake, like, in practice, and give it a go and, you know, learn that you shouldn't do that, rather than, you know, learn it in a tournament when you review the hand like, oh, why did I do this? So... Anyway, so yeah, we should check. I do feel like Michael Adamo, like, I feel like in some spots here he would just shove actually in this spot, like with quite a lot of different hands, but yeah, just best to check and, you know, let him bluff at the hand instead, I guess is the logic. Let's play another one anyway. So this one is a free bet pot. Yep, it's a free bet pot. High jack raised, we free bet to 11 and they called. Yeah, I mean, the 9-8 is kind of a nice one having your free betting range, because, yeah, the suit connectors can play quite well. We do have a nice draw here, but we are out of position, so that makes things kind of interesting. Yeah, the open-ender. The thing is, we kind of have the bad end of the open-ender. Like, I think if we had king-queen, I would probably bet. But I think on the lower end, I think it makes it a better hand to check raise. So I'm going to check here, actually. And also, I think that, like, in his free bet calling range, he's going to have a lot of jacks and a lot of 10s. I'm not sure if we really have much of a range advantage. This one's, yeah, a little bit of a brick. I do want to try to bet here. I want to try and, like, you know, set up a nice double barrel, so that even if, you know, like, so we can try to represent the flush draw. We can then try to represent, you know, the straight draw, even if it missed, like, say if it's a 9 or an 8, to still turn into a bluff with a pair out of position. Yeah, I like the idea of betting here. The question is what sizing. I think that, like, my default tends to be half pot when I don't know what sizing to use. But yeah, I mean, there is a part of me that kind of wants to go bigger. Like, maybe go 18 or something. It's hard to say. The thing, like, we've got so many options. Like, the human's just, like, so bad at dealing with so many decisions at once, you know. So it makes it, like, kind of tricky to figure out which one to go for. It's also something, like, because it's, like, green. Like, you're more likely to click on the green one in a weird sort of way. Like, way the human brain is wired. I mean, another thing to consider is, like, if we are going to, like, shove on the river, that also might affect, like, what kind of turn bet we want to do here. Because, like, we do have, like, I mean, it's not big range range, but I mean, like, are they going to just call with jacks and 10s? I mean, yeah, they probably would call with jacks and 10s. We don't really have a range advantage. If we don't have a range advantage, we should probably bet smaller. So I'm going to go with 12 for this one. What does it do? It decides to call, the 9 comes, and it does complete the flush. Now, the thing is, he could have a flush as well. I mean, yeah, because he is all getting enough equity, like, if he has an overcard like the ace high flush, then yeah, in that case, he could be going for it. The thing is, we also have a lot of, like, suited aces in our range as well that would free bet, I think. So, for this one, I mean, it's true, it would also call fair with suited aces, but I kind of, yeah, want to go for it here. Like, there is a part of me that... The thing is, now we picked up the 9. I think if the river had been, like, some sort of, like, let's say, a king or an ace, maybe that's one it would be better to bluff at. We do actually have some showdown value here. So, but the thing is, would we actually check flush? Like, when we check, we really cap our range and leaves ourselves vulnerable to be, to be bluffed off the pot, potentially. But I do think we have enough showdown value that this actually makes this a somewhat justifiable check, is kind of my feeling. So I'm going to take the showdown value. He bets 41, and we basically have a bluff catcher at this point. Now, we did say, like, that this was one reason we checked, to try to get them to try to bluff more and that we could call. The only thing is, like, I do feel like he would have, like, that he would check back, like, maybe a good jack here, like, just for, just kind of like to protect his checking range. So, yeah, I mean, he could very well have jacks in his range. Like, what would be the bluffs here? I mean, I'm not sure if he actually has that many bluffs when you think about it. Because, like, there are, king, queen got there, well, we kind of block 8-7, that's one thing. But, yeah, a lot of hands got there. I think that we might actually fold this one. Yeah, I think if it was a tournament, I think I would just fold it virtually every time. But unless I thought that they were, like, a little bit loose aggressive, like bluffy type. But I do think this one is just a fold. Let's find out how well we did anyway. Turns out, we kind of, didn't play it terribly, but that we could have played it better. So let's review it a bit and, see from there. Actually, I can do a shortcut, can't I? I can just go to this point and see from here. This one, it says we actually should bet it most of the time, so... Yeah, it's sort of interesting to learn it when we're out of position that we should actually... I guess it's not really a donk lead, because, like, they did just call our bet. But yeah, we should actually lead when we do have, like, draws and when we have pretty good hands as such. So that's kind of a interesting point here that we don't check in this spot. Like, I know it's funny, like, when you work with a solve, like, somebody feel like, oh, I'll do this because I think it's what the solver would do, and then the human thing turns out to be what the solver would do after all. But, yeah, it's good to know that we just bet there. We don't get too fancy. They check back with their ace-king. Oh, they played with ace-king, huh? Yeah, that's a very nice bluff, I have to admit. So this bet was correct, and yeah, I mean, they've got the straight draw, they've got 2 overcards, so I think, yeah, call is reasonable there. And turns out, yeah, the check is actually correct in that spot. But that, yeah, we made a mistake by folding. It's interesting, yeah, that actually, as well as checking it, we'll, like, go all in some of the time with the ace-king, because, yeah, that would put you in a tough spot. It's kind of weird, but I almost feel like I'd be more likely to call it all in than I would to call the 41. And the reason is that, like, when they're betting 41, like, yeah, they'll have some bluffs in their range, like the ace-king in this case. But actually, when you look at it, actually, the fold and the call, like, it's actually very close between the two. Like, I think that against a human, that fold would actually be correct here, because so many things got there on the river. But yeah, the computer, yeah, will find all these other bluffs, like turning the 2 overcards into a bluff as well, which is one that, is a thing, but not one you'll see quite as much made from humans. Unless they're like, I mean, you'll sometimes see some Blad players, like, they'll just play with, like, 1 overcard, like, just keep on calling because they're just, absolute stations. But yeah, this was an interesting hand, and yeah, this one, they found a very, very nice bluff. Like, I think the 41 sizing is honestly genius, actually, because it really looks like a value bet when you make it 41. Just very beautiful exploitative adjustment there. Anyway, let's go and look at this one where we are... Well, okay, the small blind free bet our raise from the low jack we called. So yeah, that ace... I mean, yeah, that his free betting range out in the small blind is going to be pretty good, I think. I mean, he is out of position, so yeah, it also means going to be a bit tighter. So I think king jack is actually just going to be a check here. I mean, he'd check to us. I'm thinking, yeah, that we would check in this spot. I mean, I'm tempted to turn king jack into a bluff because we do have the 2 back doors, so it does make me tempted to bet. The thing is that I think that his range is going to be quite reasonable in this spot when he free bets. So I think that it's one where we just check with the idea of kind of betting, yeah, on the turn more. The board pairs, so it's one where I think he's not going to have that many 6s in general. But like, what 6s do we have? Like, it's basically ace-6. We're not really playing like king-6 suited, so... But we do have, like, different flush draws. I think that this is one we actually can maybe try and go a little bit crazy on here. Like, well, let's see, like, because it's 100 big blinds, like, if you bet 36, you don't really leave much behind for the shove, but at the same time, it does allow you to, you know, have some equity, you know, kind of can try to deny the opponent's equity as well, like, you know, to, no, we're really getting an ace to fold on the turn, but I'm thinking, like, of doing this where we just shove, like, on the river, basically. So, like, that is with either flush draw coming in, or if, like, you know, another card comes, but really want to overbet this one, honestly. Because I feel like, you know, there are going to be some hands overbetting, like, you know, obviously, like, a6, like, is probably going to overbet in this point. And, you know, the spade draws probably do as well. And I mean, yeah, the 6 probably does, but there aren't going to be many 6s other than a6. So, I mean, pocket 4s, yeah, sure. So, I mean, if those are the value hands, we do need to balance it with some bluffs, and it feels like the flush draws are kind of the logical hands to bluff with here. So, you know what, I'm going to make it 36. Let's play it nice and aggressive. They do call. The jack comes, and this is interesting, because the draw's missed, they might be more likely to call us, actually. So I'm actually thinking we have enough showdown value that maybe we should just check it back at this point. I mean, there is a part of me that wants to, you know, just go, like, the double barrel and just shove. Now we picked up some actual equity. But also I think that objectively, maybe we should just take the showdown where, you know, we have some chance to win it. Turns out to have ace-5, and yeah, it turns out we play this one really badly, according to the thing, that probably we should just shove there and try, like, get the ace-x to fold. But yeah, let's review it. So the flop was correct, that we should just check there. Probably not the most difficult spot. Yeah, they just check with their ace. It's kind of interesting they're double checking with the ace there, because I would have thought, like, you'd want to bet with the ace to deny equity, but maybe the idea is that you're going to get called by better hands, or that you might then get raised and put in a really tough spot. One thing to keep in mind as well is I think that with like the human players, like, they're going to, like, sort of, like, so let's say less experienced playing, they're going to check raise. Are they going to raise, like, a lot less as a bluff, like, than they probably should according to the solver? Yeah, this one, yeah, where we probably should check, or if we're going to bet, yeah, not to overbet, but just make it like 18 or 24, because that leaves us, yeah, enough to go for a good bet on the river as such. Whereas this way, yeah, just a little bit, don't really call, like, it seems that you should actually fold the ace there most of the time, because I did think, yeah, that actually the ace, yeah, might fold in some spots, like on the river. But yeah, then we sort of end up checking, which ends up being the right play for us. But yeah, we kind of screwed up on the turn. Like, we tried to play too much like a solver in a funny, ironic sort of way, when it would have been better, yeah, just to make a smaller bet or just to check it back. So anyway, kind of an interesting hand there. And let's, I mean, I guess the logic is also, like, they're not really going to be calling me weaker than an ace, so we're kind of just giving up on the pot when we do check. But I thought he might have been continuing, like, with some flush draws or something like this, but I guess not for that sizing, to be honest. So definitely learning something from that. Let's do one more example for this video before I move on with a few other things. Also, by the way, I will be playing a tournament tonight as well, like, after I play the usual 6 p.m. daily free roll. I will be also, yeah, playing at the DY Hotel, playing the $50 game there. It's a very top-heavy game. Like, they have, like, $2,000 prize fund normally, and it's, like, $960 for first, and only 3 prizes paid. So it means, like, a lot of the time you're not going to get in the money, but when you do, it's a pretty good payout. I mean, I've bubbled there so many times, but yeah, this time I'm going to try to be on the more loose, splashy table and try to make the most of it there. So we get pocket sixes. They decide to bet. Let's see what the action was. So yeah, so it was a raise. We free bet from the low jack. We free bet cup, and they 4-bet in the low jack. And honestly, if they 4-bet, I would probably just fold the sixes, actually, because I feel like we're just set mining and don't have the SPR to justify the call. But apparently we do call in that spot, according to the solver. I think this is just a fold, actually. You know, I'm meant to turn the pairs into bluffs sometimes, but I just feel like we're just beat here. Like, I mean, what are some of the bluffs you could have? Like, it's king, queen, I guess, would be a bluff, like king, queen suited, with the backdoor flush draw as well. I guess the other bluffs might be, well, maybe also a pocket pair, but then it's a better pocket pair than ours. Yeah, they might be, well, ace-5 now beats us, so, like, ace-5 suited. So I think it's just a fold, honestly. Let's see what it says. Yeah, it says we did it correctly. Because it was a very short example, I will do one more. To finish up, do we get pocket aces? We have the second nuts after jack 10. Just checking. So we made a free bet, which, so yeah, the under the gun raise, they made a free bet that got called. Now, yeah, if it was just that we called, then yeah, this would hit the undergun's range very well. But when they just call the free bet, it actually probably hits our range better. But at the same time, ace is like such a strong hand. Like if we bet, we're kind of blocking a lot of the hands that would continue, like the ace and the the ace x hands. So I think because we're blocking it so hard, I think this is a spot where it actually makes sense to check, especially when it's a rainbow board. If it was a board of like two, like with a flush draw, then I think we might bet there for protection against the draws. But I'm not really that worried, I think, about like the draws, because is he really like betting like under the gun? Like he would just fold, I think, Jack 10 offsuit pre-flop. Yeah, he could have Jack 10 suited, but not the most likely, I think. So like especially when we free bet, I think he would probably just fold the Jack 10, because our range is going to be very, very strong when we free bet against the under the gun. This one I do kind of want to bet. Like we have top set, I think we do want to be getting value. The only question is what sizing we would use, because with 100 big blinds, yeah, it's kind of interesting with that. I think maybe I can try to learn from the previous example and not overbet, even though we have the hand here, that we probably should just be betting like 12 or 18 and just try to set up like a good shove on the river. So we make it like 18, then yeah, that's like plus 36. We're looking at like, for like 60 or so, and yeah, that sets up pretty well for a shove of nearly pot. So I do like 18.4. I feel like that's a nice sizing for here. He does call, and yeah, now it's 4 to a straight. But you have to wonder, like, how many 10s get here? Like, calling, because I think King 10 would just fold. Ace 10 suited, I mean, the thing is, like, if the worst hand you're playing from undergun 1 is, like, let's say Ace 8 offsuit or Ace 9 offsuit, then when you free bet here, like, Ace 10, I think, would honestly just be a fold. Maybe you do Ace 10 suited as a bluff, like saying it's barely not good enough to call, but then you might turn into a 4-bet bluff, maybe more than a free bet call, actually, like, from a solver point of view. This one, I'm tempted to just rip it in, frankly. Like, we have top sets, and in a way, almost like turning into like a bluff with value, like saying, we've got the 10, as it were. Like that we have maybe pocket 10s or something. Now, yeah, he could be calling with pocket 10s in his range, but the only thing is, like, do we force them to play perfectly when we shove the aces here? Like, are they only going to call us with the 10 in their hand? I think that we could get a call from ace-king. We do block it, admittedly. I think we could get a call from king-queen, maybe even king-jack if we shove. Because if we shove, like, we're basically saying we have the 10, we have aces, or we have absolutely nothing here. And, I mean, if we have, like, let's say, pocket 9s or pocket 8s, I think that those would actually be hands that could potentially bluff in this spot. So, I think, or even, let's say, like, a hand like, ace 5 suited, maybe. But yeah, I think that I like the idea of shoving, like, just going for the maximum value. If he has a 10, he has a 10, but I think we just shove. Like, I just don't think there are many 10s. Like, I think he only has 6 combinations of 10s in his range, that being the pocket 10s. So I'm going for it. He ends up calling, so we had the 10. Unlucky for us. Yeah, well, maybe not unlucky. He said we just played it badly, but yeah, I honestly did not expect King 10 suited to be in the free bet calling range there. Because I think it's just going to be dominated like so much, but I guess the logic is that you have position. So having the position means you will over-realize your equity with the King 10. So let's review it. Yeah, it turns out we played this one very badly, actually. The check is alright, but saying we should bet a small amount, which is kind of a weird thought to me, because a bet there, like, it almost feels like a check when you bet that small, but maybe the idea is you're trying to get raised. And then, yeah, for this one, we should actually, check or again bet very small. Or if we are going to bet, we should actually bet pot in that one if we're going to go for a big bet. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, the EV admittedly is very, like, similar. Like, it's not a big difference, but kind of interesting, that we're meant to, like, bet either, like, be really big or real, like, sort of pot or bet really small there. Or just check it even some of the time. I'm not a big fan of checking. I feel like, you're, just giving a free chance for the draw to get there, but yeah, in the end, he has the jack, and yeah, all in is... Actually, it turns out it's not as bad a play as I thought it might be when it gave the response. But yeah, it turns out we should bet a small amount, like just 21.5. I'm guessing the idea of betting this amount is that if they do have the 10, then we can get away and we're not, like, just risking everything. Whereas with this one, we're kind of, make it easier for him to play well. So yeah, kind of an interesting hand and one. Yeah, we... Actually, it's all one thing I kind of realized, because I know that, like, some people, like, talk about, like, the exploitative trains, like, they'll talk about, like, oh, the good thing about GTO is you also can learn a lot of exploitative plays from studying GTO. And I can kind of see that happen as well. Like, you're seeing situations, where, like, for example, like, this size of 2.45, like, I think if you did it 2.45 bet sizing, you know, in a tournament, I think they just think, oh, the guy's just on a draw, and they might check raise and, you know, just build the pot for you. So very interesting to see how, like, the solver plays, excuse me, can actually work very well in, you know, in the human setting as well as such. And yeah, I think that's a very interesting training session. Definitely I find it very enlightening to have this kind of different perspective on some of the different hands. And yeah, we didn't get through a lot of them, but I think it's better, you know, to do less hands, but to really understand why the solver is doing different things in these situations, where as opposed to just like breezing through it and, you know, not really taking in anything as such. But anyway, it was a fun video to do. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well, and I will see you for the next one.